A warm welcome to you all. Welcome, everybody. It's the start of the semester. This is our very first lecture of the semester. One thing to keep in mind is all of these lectures, these video lectures, such as what you're watching right now, all of these lectures relate directly to the exams. Every exam question comes from these lectures, so you always want to take really good notes. Well, it makes sense that our very first lecture of the semester is called Brief Introduction to Public Speaking. This is a public speaking class, COM-C 1000, and it's a beginner's public speaking class, so that's something good to keep in mind as well. So we're not going to go super deep on public speaking this semester, but we're going to provide you with all the basic essentials. So let's get right into it. Our first lecture of the semester, Brief Introduction to Public Speaking. Let's start off with the definition of public speaking. Makes sense. Let's just begin right there. Public speaking. Preparing and delivering a speech to a live audience with the purpose of informing or persuading the listeners. Something to keep in mind, there are two, broadly speaking, important types of speeches. Number one, informing the audience or giving an informative speech. And number two, persuading the audience or giving a persuasive speech. So let's break it down. These two areas, these two types of speeches. Number one, an informative speech, to inform. To teach the audience something new, brand new, or enhance their knowledge about something they already know. You're just simply passing along information, and that's it. You're stopping there. You're not going beyond that. You're giving them information, you're informing them about something, and you're stopping there. That's called an informative speech. However, this next type of speech is called a persuasive speech, to persuade. Here's our definition. Reasoning with others with a deliberate attempt to influence their thought or behavior. That's persuasion. See, you're going beyond just passing along information. You're taking it to the next level, and you want to see change in your audience. Not just their thinking, but also their behavior. So, two different types of speeches. Informative speech and a persuasive speech. Keep this in mind, everybody. We'll call this a special note, okay? Please understand this. For us, for the first half of our semester, we're going to avoid all forms of persuasion. We're only going to focus on giving an informative speech. And by the way, an informative speech is your simpler, funner speech to give. It's an easier speech to give, an informative speech, first half of the semester. The second half of the semester, so later on, that's when we're going to go deeper and we're going to learn how to give a persuasive speech. But keep in mind, let's lay off the persuasion for the first half of the semester, please. You might say that there are two broad areas of public speaking. Two broad areas of public speaking. Area number one, the delivery aspect of giving a speech. Public speaking delivery. What does that mean? It's how you present your message while giving a speech. It's not the words that come out of your mouth. It's not what you say. Instead, it's how you communicate your message while you're up there giving a speech in front of an audience. Remember, it's not the words you say, but it's how you communicate your message. What's going on with your face? What's happening with your body language, your posture? How does your voice sound? Not the words that you choose to say, but how does your voice sound? This is called public speaking delivery. However, that second broad area of public speaking is the content of your speech. That is how you organize your material or your information, and that is actually what you say. It's all the words that come out of our mouth. What do you say first in a speech? What do you say in the middle of your speech? What do you say at the end of your speech? It's all the things that you say. So it's how you organize your information. It's how you organize your material. Thus, that translates to the words that you say. These are the two broad areas of public speaking: delivery and content. Again, please know all of this for the exam. Now we're going to talk about 4 common methods of public speaking. Method number 1, something called impromptu. You've probably heard that word before, impromptu. With public speaking, an impromptu speech is developed on the spur of the moment with little or no preparation at all. So you might have a little bit of time to prepare, but not much. Or you may have no time to prepare and you have to get up there in front of the audience impromptu and deliver a message. Not an easy task, actually. These are not your easier speeches to give. We prefer time to prepare our message. I think we would all agree with that. Our second common method of public speaking is called memorized. Oh boy, right off the bat, this sounds tough. And you know what? It is. It's very difficult. I pretty much never give speeches like this, and I give speeches all the time. This is not your more common way of giving a speech. Surprisingly, believe it or not, this is not your most common method. Memorization. It's where you write out your speech first, you commit it to memory, you memorize it, and then you deliver it with no notes. So you have nothing to look at other than the audience. That's a really difficult thing to do. We will not be doing any of that this semester, so please rest assured. Our third common method of public speaking is called manuscript. This is where you completely write your speech out word for word, and I mean word for word for word in almost paragraph style, and then you just simply read it to the audience. I will say this, audiences least prefer this method. Why? Well, because they know you're just reading to them. It's not very exciting. It's pretty much done when a speaker just has to get an inaccurate message out there, and there's really no room for enjoyment. It's just, we got to get a message out there. Now, there are some rare speakers out there who can really pull it off, and it sounds like they're giving it without reading it. But most of us, the audience can tell. For most of us, we're simply reading to them, and the audience feels a disconnect when they know we're just simply reading to them. That's called manuscript. Let's go to number 4, and I put this in green on purpose because I want it to stand out. This semester, this class is really going to emphasize number 4, the extemporaneous method of giving a speech. Audiences overwhelmingly prefer this method. Here's the definition. Carefully planned with much practice. You use what's called an outline with what's called main ideas. We'll talk more about that later in the semester, instead of this kind of word for word script. So we're going to avoid this semester this word for word script, and we're not just going to read to an audience. Instead, we're going to learn how to speak extemporaneously, where we do have notes in front of us. We have what's called an outline, and we can look down at that outline. That's fine. But for the most part, we're looking at our audience. In fact, notice this. As we speak, we look at the audience at least 70% of the time. And that means it's okay to look down at the audience about 30% of the time. Yeah, we can do that. That's totally acceptable in public speaking. We can look down at our outline, at our notes, almost a third of the time to collect our thoughts, but then we look up and we look at the audience about 70% of the time. And we've practiced it a lot. So the audience feels connected to us because we're looking at them a lot. and we've practiced our speech a lot. We haven't memorized it. No, we're not going to do any memorization this semester. We haven't memorized our speech, but we've practiced it a lot. These are the four common methods of public speaking. The extemporaneous method is the one we're going to focus on this semester in this class. All right, let's move on to managing what's called communication apprehension, like we see in the image right here. We all get nervous when giving a speech. That's totally normal. You're not weird if that's the case. In fact, you're very normal if you get nervous. I get nervous. We all do. Specifically, communication apprehension is called fear or anxiety associated with either real or anticipated communication encounters. We get that anxiety, that fear. And again, that's not necessarily bad in itself. We just need to learn how to manage it. And the reason why it's not bad in itself is because having some degree of anxiety keeps us on our toes, it keeps us humble, and it helps us to want to do a good job. The key is, how can we manage it so that we are successful? Well, there's two things we can do, and that is our next two slides. Number one, this is very physiological, something we can do with our bodies. We contract a muscle for about 8 to 10 seconds against resistance to release nervous energy. And this is called an isometric exercise. It's like we see in the image here. And we can do this in class before we give a speech and no one will even know. It's very subtle. We can just put our arms underneath our chair that we're sitting on. We can pull up for about 8 to 10 seconds. Don't worry, nothing's going to happen. We're not going to pull ourselves or our chair upwards. No, because we're going against resistance. But by doing this, and then of course releasing it after 10 seconds and doing this a few times, by doing this, we can potentially release that nervous energy. This is very physiological. Let's go to our next slide, which is very psychological. And this is called cognitive restructuring. On the exam, because all of these slides will be on the exam, as you know already, but on the exam, when you see that word cognitive, just think brain. Think realigning, putting together, if you will, or restructuring your brain. Here's our definition of cognitive restructuring. Apprehensions of anxiety-producing situations are brought to awareness, challenged, and then changed. You identify negative self-statements and replace them with positive ones. Here's a quick example. In third grade, you got up to give a little mini speech in front of your fellow third graders. Maybe you noticed off in the corner two children chuckling, laughing while you're giving your speech. You assumed they're laughing at you. Ever since then, it's difficult for you to get up in front of an audience and give some kind of a speech. Why? Because your mind thinks back to that situation in third grade. Cognitive restructuring would say, okay, let's bring that thought to awareness, to our mind, challenge it, saying, wait a minute, I'm better than that. Were they even laughing at me? I don't know. Maybe they were, maybe they weren't, but I'm better than that. That was years ago. I'm an adult now. Whatever the situation, you put it behind you and you change your thinking, and now you identify positivity. Easier said than done, of course. We're not a psychology class. We're not going to go much deeper than that. Easier said than done, but our textbook does say that this could help some of us that are dealing with anxiety when giving a speech. All right, everybody. That was our first lecture, brief introduction to public speaking. Remember, all of that will be on exam 1. Thank you.